Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
It is a pleasure to be here with you, and I love that intro. I want to take you on the road with me everywhere I go. I want to tell you a little bit about myself. First of all, I want to thank you for being here. I've spent the last 5 years trying to get people to understand the power of their voice and trying to get them to understand that there is a place for them and there is a role for them in government. And you are doing that. Just by being here today, it makes a big difference. I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in a small town called Bamberg. It was a town you couldn't think about doing something wrong without someone already calling and telling your mom. It's 2,500 people and 2 stoplights. But you learned responsibility early, and you understood what it meant to be accountable. And I'm the daughter of immigrant parents that came here because they loved the opportunities of this country. And they started a business in the living room of our home, and 30 years later, it was a multi-million-dollar company. What I can tell you was, it was never easy. It was always, they had good times and they had bad times, and I watched them go through it. I started doing the books for them when I was 13, started doing sales taxes and payroll taxes and all of that. I didn't realize that was not normal until after I got into college and saw that nobody else did that when they were 13. Went through my first corporate audit at 15. And the reason now I look back that my parents did that was because they didn't want me to know what limitations were. They didn't want me to know limitations of being female. They didn't want me to know limitations of being Indian. They didn't want me to know the limitations of age. What they said is, whatever you do, be great at it, and make sure that people know that you were there. I went on and went to Clemson, graduated with a degree in accounting, went on, became a corporate accountant, worked for a company in 5 subsidiaries as an accounting supervisor, and then came back home. I married my husband, who I met my very first weekend at Clemson. He is in the military, and I'm incredibly proud of him. I have 2 children that are in public schools that are a joy to have every day and keep me humble every day that I'm there. I do want to tell you the one thing that my parents continued to teach was, don't complain about it, do something about it. So when I came back home to the family business, what I saw was a government that was way too intrusive in people's lives and in people's businesses. It was hard enough to make $1, and government was too quick to take it. So I didn't complain about it, I did something about it. Had never been involved politically at all, and decided to run for the State House. I love the fact that he said that I ran against the longest serving legislator and won. The truth is, that was a little bit of ignorance. I didn't know you weren't supposed to run against a 30-year incumbent in a primary. Race, but what I love is that the people of that district gave me a chance, and I've spent the last 5 years trying to prove to them that they made a good decision. When I got to state government, I saw a lot of things that were eye-opening. Some were good, some were not. What I did realize is that we have a problem with people understanding what the role of government is. Government was intended to secure the rights and freedoms of the people. That's it. It was never intended to be all things to all people. And we are now seeing that we're getting further and further away from that. When I got to the State House, as I went through the motions and 4 years into it, what I did start to notice was there was a problem in South Carolina. Legislators were voting more and more anonymously off the record. They were voting for things and not putting their name attached to it, and they didn't have to. And one day we had a bill that dealt with the cost of living increases for state employees and retirees. And the legislator put in an amendment that would give legislators perks. That's fine, I don't have any problem with that, and I don't judge them for that, but I think that should be openly debated. I think the public should know about it, and everybody should be able to see how their legislators voted. What happened was, the bill was read across the desk. To get a vote on the record in South Carolina, one person has to ask for it to be on the record. 9 other people have to agree that it has to be on the record. And then you get a vote on the record. We didn't get the person was not acknowledged. We certainly didn't get 9 people to agree to it. That vote passed unanimously. And all of a sudden, those retirement perks were passed. I was furious. I was not going to complain about it. I was going to do something about it. I filed a bill that said anything important enough to be debated on the floor of the House or the Senate is important important enough for a legislator to have to put their name beside their vote. And it was called the Spending Accountability Act, and it initially dealt with just bills that dealt with taxpayer dollars. We changed it to be everything. Because everything that affects your life, you need to know how your legislator voted. And there's an interesting story, because I think the story that happened in South Carolina is probably not uncommon in every state and what's going on in our federal government right now. When I came into office, I was chairman of the freshman class. My second year, I was named majority whip. My third year, I was put on a powerful labor, commerce, and industry committee. My fourth year, I was subcommittee chair of banking. The year I filed this bill, the Republican leadership in my state said, we don't want it, we're not going to have it, put it away. And because I would not put it away, they stripped me of everything. Now I tell you that because that is something that's eye-opening that we have to face as Republicans, that we have to understand as a party. We are now dealing with a situation where we are seeing government trying to be all things to all people. And we are seeing government really overstep. But who started it? Really, who started it? This happened under the Republicans' watch. The initial bailout, our Republicans did that. They passed a bill that they didn't know what it said out of the fact that they had no value for a dollar and just thought that they could make this go away. And getting back to the story on the votes on the record, I continued to fight it. Governor Sanford was incredibly supportive in the way that he saw that I was fighting it. He saw that I was being punished for it. We now have an unprecedented number of votes on the record in both the House and Senate because they passed rules demanding it, the public demanded it, and now we are better for it. And it passed subcommittee, and this next year it will be permanent law, and all votes will be required on the record in the state of South Carolina.